the Good Shepherd Auditorium in Inwood, New York City. Welcome to Inwood Art Works On Air. It's where I meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome filmmaker Luciannys Camacho. Luciannys is a Dominican filmmaker, illustrator, and sequential artist based in the New York City area with a passion for comics, storytelling, and all things colorful. She is continuing her journey through comics and is currently pitching her first graphic novel based on her short film, Check Yes, called Hero Circle. She has done work for clients like IDW, Hasbro, Tapas Media, and Wacom. She currently holds a BFA from the School of Visual Arts in 3D Animation and Visual Effects, and we are thrilled to have her here on Inwood Art Works On Air. We're going to talk to her about her work behind the camera and behind the illustrator. But first, let me welcome you to Inwood Art Works On Air. Luciannys, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, like a good first episode of a comic book, everyone loves an origin story.
Right.
So, how would your first episode go?
Oh man, my origin story would probably be like my mom kind of introducing me to her sketchbook from when she lived in the Dominican Republic, and that was kind of what skyrocketed my career because my mom was like my biggest like influence. So I was kind of like, it's like the villain origin story, but like in reverse, where it's like my whole life just changed in that moment. And from then on, I was like having a manic episode of years long of like just drawing, creating, and diving headfirst into what is cinema. My dad was the one who introduced me to animation. He would take me to the movies on opening night for everything, and that's where I got my background.
Wow. So thank you for sharing where your passion for storytelling came from, your comic influence. Do you have a favorite animated film?
Oh my gosh.
Or you could say a favorite?
Like right now, obviously, Across the Spider-Verse is like living rent-free in my mind. But like movie-wise, I know the movie that made me decide I want to go to SVA was the first Wreck-It Ralph. I saw the simulation that they had developed for hair and the cotton candy for like when they're in Vanellope's world. And I was like, me and my dad were watching at home. And my dad looked at me, he goes, "You can do that." And I'm like, crap, I could. And my art teacher, funny enough, next day hands me the SVA handbook and was like, "Hey, this came in for art, like colleges and stuff like that. You should check it out." And I saw Wreck-It Ralph in the preview pages, and I'm like, this is like a sign. I should go. Yeah. So that was like, I'm gonna go.
So maybe are you gonna have like I don't know, making this up of course, but you never know. But it's like, can you see yourself like revamping Wreck-It Ralph for the next generation?
I would love to, honestly. Like, I have a lot of friends who ended up going to Disney and Pixar. Like, a lot of my friends are there currently. They've worked on so many of the current films that are out, like mostly Encanto. And, I guess because I see my friends there and I basically grew with them as an artist, I'm like, I could see myself in that position and, potentially art directing or just kind of redoing things for a new or more modern take, because that's like kind of like my bread and butter. Like I like taking the old and kind of influencing it with the new. So yeah, definitely.
I think it's all about who's your audience, right?
Yeah.
And saying like, Wreck-It Ralph, sure, it's for everybody, or Encanto is for everybody too, but who, like, how can you bring them to new audiences, and also if it's an older story that may need updating, how do you do that for today's audience? So
exactly.
Yeah. Well, cool. So is there a particular comic that has influenced you? That you had the movie, so I'm going to bring it down to like the comic level, which all seems to be going to movies anyway these days.
Yeah.
But is there a comic series that's you hold near and dear?
Yeah. So American comics wise, funny enough, Archie. My mom got me Archie comics that she found in her bedroom, and that's what kind of made me go in that direction.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, Archie. And then what's it called? I grew up with a lot. I was the youngest at the time when I was growing up. Like I was the only one in my family. Like I was a single child, so I had all my older cousins who were like maybe 8 years my senior, and they were all into the Japanese wave of 2001 and beyond. So they were like, "Hey, look at this manga," and I was reading a lot of manga, and I stumbled across the work of Arina Tanemura, and she greatly influenced my work, and she was kind of like what brought me to the artistic level I was at up until high school. So like my cousins put me on the manga wave and anime because it was on Cartoon
Sure.
Network at the time, but my mom was like, "Hey, I read this when I was a kid, and it was Archie," and I was like, eating them up, and because they had them at the supermarket at the time when people still did that.
Right.
So
It's amazing you can't find them anymore at
no,
supermarkets.
no, you cannot. Like you have to get them on eBay or something.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the reason why I asked you because animation and cartoons
Mm-hmm.
in general influenced my upbringing very much. So
Yeah.
I remember getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and trying to catch. And it wasn't manga then. It was essentially Japan animation. Like we're talking like Robotech
Yes.
and all the Star Blazer series and things like that were dubbed in
Yes.
for American audiences.
My dad was big on Voltron and
Voltron,
yeah.
the original. There's
Yeah.
like, and people remember there were like 3 different Voltrons.
Yes.
There was the the different ones, but
Yeah.
we won't make a podcast. But maybe we should make a podcast about Voltrons.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lions. We had the space one. There's the third one, and the
Yeah.
Robies and things like that. But then you had like things that your GI Joes and your Archies, your classic Bugs Bunnies,
Yes.
and you have a lot of your. Of course, so you always had a Disney influence, but Hanna-Barbera was also a huge influence.
I was
on
huge
me
on
at the time.
Boomerang. Yeah.
Super Friends. Fun fact: I'm from Cincinnati originally.
Yeah.
The Hanna-Barbera came out of Dayton, Ohio.
Oh.
And there's a theme park called Kings Island there
Yeah.
that has rides, and so these called Hanna-Barbera Land. So you would see like Huckleberry Hound
Oh,
and
that's
like
cool.
Yogi Bear and things like that.
Love that.
But there's the train station, the Amtrak still goes into this day. It's called Union Terminal, and that was the prototype for the Hall of Justice and Super Friends.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh.
So like when we were kids, it was like we're driving by it. That's the Hall of Justice.
Yeah.
and it really exists.
Yeah.
And so we're all freaked out. And, like Aquaman and Superman and Batman and Robin were hanging out there
Right.
in Cincinnati of all places. But why not? But let's get back to your work and the reason why I wanted to ask like your influence because I see it in your now award-winning film Check Yes. So where did the idea for that come from?
So when we were like, when I was in SVA, like this was 2017, they tell you like, hey, you have to make a thesis film so you can graduate and kind of show people to.
You didn't waste your mom and dad's money or your money on this stuff.
Exactly. So you have to make the thesis film so that you can potentially get work. So it's kind of your demo reel. It's your business card. That's what they call it. So I was not feeling the visual effects kind of wave I was riding at the time because at that point I had discovered that I wasn't that great at 3D animation. It's extremely technical. It's not nearly as creative as you think. It's extremely technical, very math heavy, which all things that I'm not. I'm more of the creative mind. So I had transitioned to visual effects, which is more live action, episodic, but it felt very monotonous. So funny enough, the first Spider-Verse had dropped that year. And I walked out of there like having like a brain blast moment. And I'm like, I don't have to do that. I can just do something else. So I went home and I thought of all the movies that I liked. Spider-Verse was of course on there. The Amazing World of Gumball, if you've seen it on Cartoon Network, it has like a mixed media look. Heavily was taken from that. And Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And I was like, okay, I like all these things. I'm going to mesh them into this Frankenstein and see what happens. And I presented my character designs to my teacher at the time. He was a huge support of mine. And I showed it to him because it was a requirement. We had to design characters, even if it was live action, And he was like, hey, kid, are you still going to do live action? He's like an old Jewish guy from Brooklyn. So he was always very hard on me, but I appreciated it. And he was kind of like, you haven't smiled in months. And I was very depressed at that time. And I said, yeah, it's true. And then he said to me, like, were you happy when you made this? I said, yes, I was. And he goes, then why are you wasting your time? Do it. So I did. And that's where I'm at now. And I forever owe my life to him. Eric Reinfeld, he still teaches there. Like, he's not everybody's cup of tea, but he was hard to me when I needed it. So
It's all about finding the people who are right for you.
Absolutely.
And speaking of right for you, you just chose, and culturally speaking, how important was the story that you set your film in Inwood?
Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of my of the story, I like based it on my memories of my childhood memories. I had a childhood friend named Javier. I don't know if he remembers me, but I remember him.
Now he's immortal.
Yeah, he's immortal now. Sorry. His like presentation, I based it off my brother, how he looked like at the time, and stuff like that, and like things that like spoke to me, and also at the time too, I was kind of coming to grips with my upbringing. Because at that time, I really didn't really acknowledge the Dominican side of me for a long time because I felt like to be an artist, I had to become, not necessarily generic, but I had to become what people liked. And then I realized at some point, I'm like, but I'm kind of depriving myself as an artist, like kind of like doing that introspection. And I was kind of like, you know what? No, I'm going to talk about what I know best. And at that time I was kind of grappling with being the firstborn daughter and being the oldest. So, and how that ties in with being Dominican and all those expectations. So the whole story is an allegory for me wanting to be an artist and no one believing in me. And then when I made it, a lot of people changed their tune.
Very intrigued speaking too about cultural identity,
Yeah.
and just curious, and because obviously our neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
is such a predominant, has Dominican families
Yes.
and influence from here. Do you feel that, I mean, only speak for your own self, of course, and you can, like, is there, because I knew growing up, let me finish the question first.
Right.
It's like, is there support for an artistic career within the Dominican community or Dominican households? Like, because coming from a family, I'm also like, I won't say black sheep, but like I'm the only person that was an artist in my family.
Right.
There were teachers and business people, and because pretty much since the 1920s in America, just
Right.
forget what culture group you belong to.
Yeah.
Working as an actor or in the arts, the people who are the Tom Cruises of the world spoil it for the rest of us. Like everyone thinks if you make a movie, you're living in the high life.
Yeah.
And so they don't think it's a real job.
Yeah.
And so I faced that
Yes.
as an actor and as a creative producer
Right.
until you're paying the rent. So
Exactly.
just curious if you faced that, and then also, do you feel like there's a stigma within the Dominican community?
Yeah, there absolutely is. I mean, like, 100% agree. Like, for everybody, no matter the culture, it's starving artists for everybody, no matter what. But I feel like there's this added layer in the Dominican community, which I think can extend to any immigrant community. It doesn't matter from where you're from. It's that economic insecurity that scares people. So people have that sense of, like, if you're an artist, you're going to struggle. And that's not necessarily incorrect, but I feel like it's to the degree where people hear, like, I'm like, Mom, Dad, I want to be an artist, they panic. So my parents panicked. Like, they endorsed me, even took me to classes up until I was in high school. And then junior year rolled around, and then I said, hey, I applied to art school. And my dad's face just completely dropped. And I was just like, what? I thought we were cool with this.
Right.
And he was like, no, I'm not cool with this.
What about those art classes you took me to?
Yeah, exactly. My dad had fostered my love for animation. He was the one. He looked at me. He says, "I want you to do this." So imagine my shock when I went ahead and did it. And my dad saw that $40,000 tuition. He was like, "I can't." And after some time we talked. It was a long, arduous battle. He said to me, "Listen, I believe you can do it. I was a star student all my life." He was like, "I believe you can do it. But you need to understand that I can't help you. It's all on you." And that was scary. And that's why I was kind of depressed when I had met my teacher, because I felt alone. Because a lot of my friends were like, my dad worked on Toy Story, my uncle did this. And I'm like, I don't have any connections. So
and
that's
New
what
York
scares.
is unique too, because I'm butting here for a sec, because it's a different beast than being in, like, say, Milwaukee or I don't know, Charlotte or something, or a small town elsewhere that has, when I say small, 1 million people.
Yeah.
So that's not small, but New York's 8.5, 6 million people. So
Yeah.
it's a different beast when you have, the film TV industry in your backyard versus not. So you do have, it's an added pressure, right? Because you do have, my dad's on the soaps or whatever.
Yeah, it's like you meet all these people that are so out of your league. Like, I had a friend of mine that he just casually dropped to me. He's like, "Yeah, my dad's a curator at the MoMA." I was like, "Oh, okay." My dad works for Horizon.
My dad teaches high school.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like that. But it's like your parents, like, for Dominicans, I cannot speak for anybody else, but for my parents, and like my voice actors were high school kids, and I had to speak to their parents. I walked my voice actors home. Because they're young, they were 15 years old, and I would talk to their parents, and their parents are like, I'm thankful for what you're doing for my kid, because I really didn't think this was going to become anything, but can you please assure me that this will be something? And it's just that economic promise that they're looking for, because a lot of these people don't have money. They don't have the money to put their kids through the necessary means of getting those connections. And it's mostly that. It's lack of understanding and scared of economic insecurity for their children. That's basically the two things that stop people, I think.
So given that, how much does this award for excellence in filmmaking you got at the Inwood Film Festival for Short mean to you?
Abundantly. Like, it's my first thing I've ever won. And it was the first film festival I had ever attended in person. So it was a magnificent experience for me, and like it was priceless seeing my dad's reaction, because my dad's like he's more the artistic guy. My mom's kind of like, if you like it, it's cool. But my dad,
He's the critic.
Yeah, my dad's like more like because he loves movies, like that's his thing. So when people were coming up to me at the film festival saying like, she's the best investment you've ever made, like I think it finally kind of cooled in his head. He was like, okay, she's good. And I was relieved for me, because number one, he can get off my butt. Number two, it's like, yay, like I have that validation that he couldn't really see, because the pandemic kind of put a stop to everything, and I couldn't properly graduate and stuff like that. So there was not that closure.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for sharing your experience, and I'm glad that we kind of went full circle with that whole story.
Oh,
then.
yeah.
And I hope your dad keeps attending our film festival, whether you're there or not. I hope he likes movies so much. And of course,
no, he enjoyed himself, so he's definitely going to return.
Well, great. So I have to mention, now you're in the production process for taking the story of Check Yes into the graphic novel phase.
Yeah.
Which is based on the film. So where are you now in the production process for this graphic novel? So we're talking, is it and I guess the part B question is that, is it mixed media? Is it because graphic novels are sometimes now, on the web, and they have like these Easter egg things to it, and the hyperlinked and little moments that happen? Or is it just going to be your good old pulp?
Right. Yeah. So right now where I am in like the phases is like I'm pitching right now. So right now we're kind of like submitting my pitch to different publishing houses to see who bites. It's scary as hell. And because like now it's my thing subject to critique, people who are in the industry are going to look at it and be like, okay, is this good or not? But it's going to be like a traditional book. I'm planning on doing it like multi-volume, because it's a semi-longish story. It's not going to be like it's not going to be like a manga where they go like 20 volumes, but like we're going to go under 10, and it's just going to be traditional, like not traditional, but it's more of a modern webcomic-y look versus like a traditional cape comic. Because I love cape comics, but I have a little bit more of an affinity for the Japanese kind of method for comic making. It's more my style. So that's where I'm at.
All right. It sounds great. And just curious, will you be willing to option it also for a feature? Because since Check Yes was a film, like, or a series of some kind, like live action?
I have an agent now, and she asked me on our first meeting, she was like, have you considered episodic? And I was like, absolutely. That's like, I'm doing the graphic novel because I just don't have like the resources to do it all on my own right now. So I'm like, I don't want it to die though. So I'm going to keep it moving in the graphic novel sector. And then, a lot of these comics are going to Hollywood now. Like I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm going to make this a comic so that the storyboard's done. So that if somebody wanted to pick this up and turn this into an animated series, it's there. The content is there. That's my plan, because I haven't given up on the animation stuff. I just want it to be kind of like a bigger production versus like the 5 people that I had on Check Yes.
But the cool thing is, though, not that you want to, again, you said you want it to expand the crew beyond 5. But what do you have an idea? Like, so do you have the whole series storyboarded out already?
Yeah, I have it all written out.
Do you have it by a chance? If anybody's listening here, like a budget that might be realistic? Any idea? Talk to people on the producing end of things, animation side of things, as far as like making it happen. Like what would it cost to put these 10 episodes or 9 episodes together? Since you already have the pilot.
Right. I know for a pilot, like I have friends who do storyboards and stuff like that. They were telling me like to do it like probably like in the level of quality of like Invincible, like right now on like Amazon and stuff like that. They were telling me like anywhere of between like 60, 90, because it is 2D animation. But I don't know how much for a series though. That's tough, because I know the animation budgets can wildly vary. Yeah. So
because you have voice talent coming in and out and things like that.
Exactly. And I highly want to bring back the original kids that I hired.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, that'd be super dope.
Then you can tell their parents, "See, I told you."
Exactly.
That's awesome. So aside from that, do you have another project you're pitching right now? You think you're working on right now? Because that's from the SVA years to now. Like obviously you've grown a lot since then. Where are you now?
Right now, aside from doing Hero Circle, which is, the subsidiary is Check Yes, like I'm doing a webcomic with this writer Bria Struthers. She's doing something with Webtoon, if you've heard of it, and it's called The Serpent's Daughter. So it's like a modern take, like solar pug take of Greek myths. So it's like it follows like Medusa's like kind of like ancestor. It's really fun. I'm having a really fun time doing that. And then aside from that, I just do a lot of like freelance gigs. Like I just wrapped up the cover for My Little Pony for
Nice.
IDW, so that was really fun. Like it was like very strange, but I was like, yeah, I'll go down for it. Like I haven't done a horse in my life, but I'll go. But yeah, it's and that too. Like just conventions too. I like tour the country doing conventions, so I'm hoping Comic-Con takes me this year. So
Well, that would be great.
Yeah.
And any stories from Uptown you want to take with you? Moving into something else? Anything you're working on?
I don't know, because with Hero Circle, it's become so large
Yeah.
that there's so many like multiple stories happening in this one story, where it's like we have our main crew, but they're all dealing with something different. I mean, like I still want to continue that like mother-daughter relationship thing going on, but also too I just want to like and was my pitch to Inwood Academy. When I pitched them for the story, for the voice acting, that it's like ultimately I just want to humanize and the high school and middle school kids here, because my inspiration was people watching them. Actually, I would take the subway and I would hang out in the basketball court before they tore it down and redid it, and I would people watch the kids. And I remember when I would bring them up saying like, oh, they're really funny to watch, like I like seeing them interact, it's very entertaining. And a lot of people were just like, those demons, like there was like people cross the street when they see them, like and I'm just kind of like, but when I would talk to them, they were just like, they were rough around their edges, sure, but a lot of them were just kids. And I kind of, that's what my ultimate goal is with Hero Circle and Check Yes. It's just kind of like humanize them and show people like they have problems like you, but they're not the problems that you're traditionally used to seeing when you think of 15, 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
So that's basically, I just want something for them to see themselves in, because when I was growing up here, when Inwood Academy was St. Jude,
Yeah.
I was going through a lot of things that maybe a third grader shouldn't have, and I think that was just to the fact that a lot of our communities are just new, don't know how to handle the situation. They just think, let me just put my kid in a expensive school and
Right.
hopefully that'll fix the problem. But no. So it's mostly that. I just want people to see that and just be like, you're not alone. It's okay.
And we need more things in the community for youth.
Absolutely. I told my agent, like if we ever do get to publish and it does well, I want to do a book tour here, that I'd be like, hey guys, like, and then like, cause there's people saying like, oh, what if we can't afford the book? Cause book prices are extreme lately.
Yeah.
Like one graphic novel can be like $15. And I was telling her, I'm like, yeah, I'll just get a bunch of copies and hand it out so they can read it. I mean, like I'm big on access. And then like, I just want the parents to also see like, wow, like we have people.
Yeah.
And then, cause like right now, all we have is, according to my grandma, Lin-Manuel Miranda, but like,
Well, he's done a lot, but he can't unfortunately be everywhere for everybody.
Exactly.
And that's why I hope we do we stay in our lane, but we do what we can. Like for just student film submissions.
Yeah.
And we actually did matinees, and we're here at Good Shepherd today.
Mm-hmm.
Like and actually. Kids from High School of Excellence and Innovation, IS 52 came.
Mm-hmm.
We did a matinee for Good Shepherd kids. We've always invited Inwood Academy kids too, but I don't think they want to let them out of school for a matinee. But because it's during school time usually. But we have our free outdoor movies during the summertime. Like we're doing like the Puss in Boots film this summer in Spanish.
Oh, very good movie.
It's about animation,
Yeah.
right? And a few others, 101 Dalmatians, and
Yeah.
a few other stuff too, animated wise. But also family friendly stuff. So the point is like you take away that cost for accessibility. Anybody can come. Because I agree with you. Like it's you. And introducing books to people again. I mean, that's another thing. A generation that is full of hard screens on their iPads and tablets, let alone turning a page of a comic. So, but it seems like you've come full circle, and I wish you all the best with Hero Circle. Speaking of, and more Viva Uptown stories up here.
Yes.
And I hope you don't forget us when you make it real big,
Oh,
because you're already
absolutely
on your way. It seems.
Oh, well, I hope so. I absolutely not though. So much of my core memories were made here, and like like when I think nostalgia, I think here. I mean, like in middle school I moved to New Jersey, but the whole time I was in middle school I was like, I miss New York, I miss New York, I miss New York. And I came back and I stayed, and I was just like, you can't take the New York out of me. I come back every single time.
Well, you're always welcome here.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. So, Luciannys, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Before we say goodbye, where can people go to find out more about your current and forthcoming projects?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm on every social media known to man.
Just give them Instagram, maybe a website, okay?
Yeah, yeah. So mostly on my Instagram, that's where you can reach me. I respond to most people, but my Instagram handle is opal_lines. I'm there posting my illustrations, talking about what else, and usually if I'm around New York doing an event, you'll find me there, and I'll announce it there.
Very good. Well, listeners, you have your marching orders, and follow her, and maybe she'll talk to you sometime.
Exactly.
But so give her your support; she deserves it. Well, thanks again, Luciannys, for joining us on this Artist Spotlight episode of Inwood Art Works On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes that make their home here in Northern Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show us some love right now, and please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Many thanks to Church of Good Shepherd here in Inwood for hosting us, and to HeightSites.com for uptown promotional support. And you can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate. And also, be sure to follow us on social media at Inwood Art Works to keep up all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, pop-up art galleries, live performances, and so much more. Inwood Art Works On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. And our programming is made possible by the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Art Works On Air.